Well, it won't be long now, and much of the world will be celebrating the ushering in of a new year. Greetings, everyone. I'm Phil West, and I welcome you to this Tomorrow's World webcast. We often consider the beginning of a new year as a time for reflection and for making New Year's resolutions. That's, of course, after all the revelry and partying associated with New Year's Eve. Well, where did these customs originate? And should Christians really be involved in New Year's celebrations? The article on History.com titled New Year's states, quote, "Civilizations around the world have been celebrating the start of each new year for at least 4 millennia. Today, most New Year's festivities begin on December 31, New Year's Eve, the last day of the Gregorian calendar, and continue into the early hours of January 1, New Year's Day. The earliest recorded festivities in honor of a New Year's arrival date back some 4,000 years to ancient Babylon. For the Babylonians, the first new moon following the vernal equinox, the day in late March with an equal amount of sunlight and darkness, heralded the start of a new year. They marked the occasion with a massive religious festival called Akitu, derived from the Sumerian word for barley, which was cut in the spring, that involved a different ritual on each of its 11 days. In addition to the new year, Atiku celebrated the mythical victory of the Babylonian sky god Marduk over the evil sea goddess Tiamat. Throughout antiquity, civilizations around the world developed increasingly sophisticated calendars, typically pinning the first day of the year to an agricultural or astronomical event." End quote. How did January 1 come to mark the beginning of a new year? The History.com article explains that it was Julius Caesar who introduced the Julian calendar, which closely resembles the Gregorian calendar most countries utilize today. The article states, quote, "As part of his reform, Caesar instituted January 1 as the first day of the year, partly to honor the month's namesake, Janus, the Roman god of beginnings, whose 2 faces allowed him to look back into the past and forward into the future. Romans celebrated by offering sacrifices to Janus, exchanging gifts with one another, decorating their homes with laurel branches, and attending raucous parties." End quote. It's just fascinating to understand where our modern practices surrounding New Year's actually originated. Like so many man-made traditions, New Year's celebrations have their roots in ancient pagan practices and should be avoided by Christians. Did you know that God instituted His own sacred calendar to be followed? Further, did you know that the Living Church of God, the sponsors of the Tomorrow's World telecast and website, keep the God-ordained holy days mentioned together in Leviticus chapter 23? In that sense, we follow God's sacred calendar, which begins in the spring of the year, called in ancient Israel the month of Abib. Speaking of Abib, God said in Exodus 12 and verse 2, "This month shall be your beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you." And then God instructed each household to pick out an unblemished lamb to be sacrificed. The blood of those lambs provided safety for the Israelites. God said He would bring a plague that would kill all the firstborn in Egypt, but He would pass over them when He saw the blood on the doorposts and lintels of the Israelites' homes. God's sacred calendar begins in the spring when true Christians keep the Passover. This ancient practice carries on today, but with different symbols instituted by Jesus Christ on the night of His betrayal. The wine symbolizing His shed blood, and the bread symbolizing His broken body. 1 Corinthians 5 and verse 6 states, "For indeed Christ, our Passover, was crucified for us." If you're interested in finding out more about God's calendar, and more specifically His commanded holy days, read our booklet, The Holy Days, God's Master Plan. And call it what you want, but feel free to make a resolution to read this important booklet. It really could change your life. Be sure to read everything else we have to offer at tomorrowsworld.org. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.